It seems at first glance that many jobs will disappear.
What will the people do? I don't know, maybe they'll demonstrate.
Once you have designed a self-driving car, you have eliminated all the drivers for all time.
You will have more Trumps, you will have more AfD, you will have more people who are pissed and angry because politics is not solving the problem, which is very true.
We must never stop asking ourselves, what kind of world do we want to live in?
In the last 2 decades, technology has drastically changed our lives. From what we eat, what we buy and how we buy it, to where we go and how we get there, technology has become the center of our lives without us even noticing it. And in that time, such significant advancement has occurred in the areas of robotics and AI, it could hardly have been dreamed of just years ago. Slowly, these new applications are taking over more and more tasks that traditionally were assigned to humans. Precisely because of that, a steadily growing dark fear is spreading within our society. Will machines soon take all of our jobs? And will humankind one day be completely superfluous?
It will take another 5 to 10 years until AI is mature enough that it's able to take large-scale jobs. For now, it will just increase the productivity, but next 5 to 10 years, it will mean, we need less kind of people for them. And this will lead to unemployment.
Yes, there are fear that job will disappear, but this fear is linked to the technological change, of course, but is also fit by another important element, which is the gap that is behind this possible change, what will come after.
Automation in our society is nothing new. It's a process that started 200 years ago and has been moving steadily until now. In all sectors, in industry, in agriculture, or in transport, the implementation of machines is a process that is already normal and familiar. However, why are there so many doubts about applying those modern technologies to new fields or disciplines? Which fear underlines this anxiety? What triggers an alert in the minds of many people? And what is the actual state of those technologies? What can these machines do? What can they not do? Are we perhaps closer to a pessimistic scenario than we thought? Fear of new technologies was always there.
I think there's been a bit of excessive expression of fear about AI, maybe because the progress has been so fast, it has made some people worried.
In the 1980s, people talked a lot about computers taking over because the rise of the PC, etc., and there were so many job losses being predicted. And in those days, I didn't agree because they weren't doing anything in the world.
It's clear that our working world is going to change massively. Just like with the PCs in the past or the assembly lines, entire jobs will change completely.
The fear of change and an uncertain future has always been part of the human legacy. Our society is based on certain stability within our social structures. So, it is understandable that every new factor that threatens this structure is always received with concern and suspicion. Automated machines appeared in England during the First Industrial Revolution in the 19th century. As a result, some factory workers attacked and destroyed them, not only in protest, but out of concern for losing their jobs. The workers feared the worst for their future.
We have seen definitely the displacement effect in the past, in major industrial revolutions, for example.
We now have 150 years of automation behind us. The Great Automation, the assembly line, industrial robots, even the introduction of the PC in the workplace, it has also made work more effective, that more can be produced with fewer people. And yet, employment has increased.
Und trotzdem hat die Beschäftigung zugenommen. Look at the past as well. Look at the industrial sector. You will see that automatization, some kinds of digitalization of several processes already happened.
The displacement of labor due to the implementation of new technologies was not an isolated case of the first industrial revolution. In the years after, during the second and third industrial revolutions, and to this day, the changes in the labor market have always been directly or indirectly related to the displacement of workers by machines.
Das heißt, diese Annahme, dass man nur
In other words, this assumption that by looking at how much technology can theoretically do and conclude from that how the labor market will develop is simply wrong. History has shown us that automatization brings new jobs.
Human labor is replaced by machines. This tendency has shown us consequences in the past already. When the agricultural sector started industrializing its processes, many workers were displaced to the industrial sector, and years later, from the industrial sector into the service sector. But how will the displacement effect work this time?
The displacement effects captures exactly how the machines becomes better in what they do. They become cheaper as we move forward, and therefore human labor will not be able to deliver better outcomes in a cheaper price, and therefore they will be displaced.
It seems inevitable that the labor market will continue to change due to technological advances. So the main question is, what will we do next? Will there still be enough jobs for us all in the future?
One of the principal anxieties that people have about the future is whether there will still be employment, because the same big tech companies that are grabbing all our data and manipulating us advertise, oh, we're building these artificial intelligences and these robots that will put you out of work.
Natürlich werden Arbeiten wegfallen.
Of course, some jobs will disappear. The question is, if there will be new jobs created, and if these new jobs will be enough to bring all these unemployed persons back to work.
Die vorher Arbeit hatten, auch wieder in Arbeit zu bringen.
Automation will soon eliminate millions upon millions of jobs. And while new jobs will certainly be created, it is unclear whether people will be able to learn the necessary new skills fast enough.
So the risk of automation for labor markets and employment in general is that as machines will perform specific tasks better and better, those tasks will not require human labor. So that means that the demand for human labor will go down, that wages will go down for these specific tasks.
Demand and wages for many occupational groups will fall. These are not encouraging prospects for the future. How will this affect the working world in the following decades?
In some fields, I am sure, there will be this collapse that can lead to dismissals, where on most situations there will be no new people hired, that the next generation no longer will have this job.
There will be new jobs created, and that's the big selling point for the manufacturers. We'll create many new jobs, and they will create new jobs, but the problem is, will the new jobs be so small in number? Otherwise, there's no point doing this. They could be so small in number that there's still massive unemployment.
It is a bit less detectable at the moment because often humans are cheaper than the technology that will replace them, AI, androids, etc. But there is a trend in which there is less and less jobs in the production sector. And society has to face this problem.
So we will have a divide. Highly skilled people who can adapt with new technologies, they will be in huge demand. We will have a bottleneck of them. And for those who do not get along with technology and who do manual stuff or very repetitive stuff, they will face more challenging.
The social challenges that accompany the technological revolution are yet to come. Our society will have to face many difficult questions about our working world. After all, further scientific achievements in the field are not only being made quickly, but they are also consistently establishing themselves in our daily lives. The process is far from over, and the discussion about the future of work has reached the streets.
For me, it's scary. I'm thinking about my children, my grandchildren. Will they have jobs in the future?
Einige Fähigkeiten lassen sich nur von Menschen machen.
Everyone is talking about AI, artificial intelligence, and people are kind of afraid, oh, they're gonna steal our jobs. But no, I think just our jobs are going to change. And that's it. And actually the skills we have as humans they're going to make more sense, and maybe our jobs are going to be more creative.
I think it's going to make harder for those people who are not like great in every section of the working world.
Technical jobs, data jobs, all factory jobs, everywhere where you maybe don't need to think a lot.
There's not a normal job left for those people.
I'll probably lose my job for artificial intelligence, yeah.
Ich vermute aber mal, dass an anderer Stelle neue Arbeitsplätze entstehen.
New jobs thanks to artificial intelligence. That seems to be the hope at the moment. But what kind of jobs? And how many will survive this economic transformation?
Oft, wenn bestimmte Arbeitsakte
Often when specific processes are automated, this means that workers have to do other things, like control or programming. It is not that the job disappears, it is that the activities change.
die Tätigkeiten verändert werden.
Es sieht natürlich so aus, als ob
It seems at first glance that many jobs will disappear, and not everyone can program a robot afterward. This is the danger, that the new jobs that are created are too highly qualified.
Suppose you're a 50-year-old truck driver and you just lost your job to a self-driving vehicle. Now, there are new jobs in designing software or in teaching yoga to engineers. But how does a 50-year-old truck driver reinvent himself or herself as a software engineer or as a yoga teacher? And people will have to do it not just once, but again and again throughout their lives.
Translators, legal assistants, public relations, accountants, journalists, technical writers, programmers, designers, video editors, teachers, telemarketers, drivers, and financial analysts. The list of jobs with a high risk of automation over the next decades is growing steadily and incessantly.
Because the automation revolution will not be a single watershed event following which the job market will settle down into some new equilibrium. Rather, it will be a cascade of ever bigger disruptions, because AI is nowhere near its full potential.
It will be more and more difficult for people to actually bring something that machines can't do. Once you have designed a self-driving car, you have eliminated all the drivers for all times. Once you have designed a system that actually can perform a task somewhere, you have eliminated the possibility for someone to do it everywhere for all time.
Professions that it seems will soon be gone and never return. Processes replacing those jobs promise us a better future with fewer obligations and more creative space for ourselves, where AI and algorithms will take on laborious and complex tasks. But is that promise real? Are we lying to ourselves?
Mankind has gone so far as to create a world where it is very hard for young people to come into society, to take a role in society, to get to a place where their work is recognized. And what we are just going on doing is destroying every means they could have to bring something to the rest of the society.
All jobs will disappear, new jobs will emerge, but then the new jobs will rapidly change and vanish. Whereas in the past, humans has had to struggle against exploitation, in the 21st century, the really big struggle will be against irrelevance. And it's much worse to be irrelevant than to be exploited.
Humans could become irrelevant over time, turning into shadows of what we once were. All the individuals that don't adapt to an ever-changing job market may have to fight for the few jobs left by automation and AI. It seems like a future that is still far away from us, but the fear is already palpable. On the other hand, high-tech companies and their developers claim that these changes will bring opportunities and prosperity for all. But how does that fit together?
It has been proved that the new competition with automation, with robotics, it is destroying the fabrics of the economy and of the societies, which means that it's not providing welfare at all.
How will our economic system change under the new impulses of AI and robotics? Will it survive as we know it?
Some economists are actually very concerned about something which may happen, is that what they call the collapse of the middle class. Because up until now, the robots could only replace manual work. So hand workers were targeted. They could be replaced by these machines. And the middle class were preserved and protected. But this is going to change, because nowadays what we are targeting is replacing their capabilities. So the middle class is going to suffer from this competition. And they're probably going to lose their jobs.
In consequence, we have more and more professions. Like in the US, where you have more occupations for highly qualified workers and more jobs for unqualified workers. Where the middle class has collapsed, the middle class is disappearing. So the well-paid industrial worker that worked at Ford or General Motors doesn't exist anymore. Those jobs are done nowadays by robots.
We are already experiencing a middle class that is threatened with extinction. We should not stand by and watch it with indifference and inactivity, because social stability is at stake. Dark clouds are already gathering on the horizon. They are indications of an emerging political catastrophe. The recent triumph of numerous parties with an extreme right tendency is no coincidence. The threat is global. USA, Brazil, Italy, Hungary, and many other countries have experienced a clear shift to the extreme right in recent years. Contrary to what people may think, this upswing is not solely due to the protest vote of the poorest groups in our societies. It is much more the angry scream of an ever-decreasing and destabilized middle class, a clamor of the working class.
More people will not understand it, they will look for easy solutions, which is also falling back on traits where we have, like nationalism. You will have more Trumps, you will have more AfD, you will have more people who are pissed and angry because politics is not solving the problem, which is very true.
The return of these ideologies to the center of our society seems to be related to automation and the potential loss of many jobs. We should never forget that mass unemployment in the first half of the 20th century was one of the major reasons for the rise of the extreme right in Germany, Italy, and many other European countries. What followed is known to be one of the most difficult periods in human history. So what is the solution? What ideas are there?
In Europa und auch in Deutschland ist jetzt seit
In Europe and in Germany, the topic of universal basic income has become very important. The fact that everyone gets money regardless of whether they work or not work. That people can first cover the basics of any life standard, and all the rest will be as an extra.
Und alles weitere ist dann zusätzlich.
In the long run, I'm sure there will be a universal basic income.
Universal basic income. The idea that the state issues a monthly check to every citizen without any counter-commitment is not new. This idea has been around for more than 3 centuries. For the first time, the thinker and philosopher Thomas More described it in his book Utopia. The disappearance of many jobs due to automation in the last years has led to the growing conviction in the Western world that universal basic income could be an effective tool for combating future mass unemployment.
I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we're going to have a choice.
$1,000 a month for every American adult starting at age 18.
A wow theory with many controversies. In 2017, Finland launched a project in which 2,000 unemployed people received €560 per month instead of their unemployment benefit. And that without being asked for anything in return. The program was discontinued after 2 years. There was no significant improvement in the employment situation of the subjects, even though they felt happier and less stressed. The experiment had many critics from the start. On the other hand, its supporters point out that the project should have been developed for a longer period and never had a real chance of proving its efficacy. The success or failure of universal basic income as a viable concept for our society seems to depend on a variety of different factors.
Das ist etwas, was zunächst einmal gut klingt.
That is something that sounds good at first. But in today's life with the competition and the problems we still have among countries, it is still difficult to implement.
Was passieren würde, wenn ein Land jetzt viel produktiver ist
What will
als
happen when a
andere
country
und
became much more
auf einmal wird
productive
alles
than
vielleicht
other? Maybe suddenly
in
all
einem
will be
Land
produced in
hergestellt
that
und wir
country.
haben gar nichts mehr hier.
And after that, we will have
haben wir auch
nothing
kein
over
Geld
here.
mehr, um
We will no
was
longer have
auszugeben.
any money to
Das ist
spend
nochmal eine
here.
ganz
And
andere
that is the issue. How these differences would then affect the various countries.
Dann auswirken würden auf verschiedene Gesellschaften.
The global competition between the leading trading nations is a significant counterforce against the introduction of universal basic income. But there is another central point that we should not underestimate. Are we humans prepared to leave behind the value we derive from work and salary?
Because today, we define ourselves very strongly through our work. Our happiness depends very much on the recognition we get for our work and how much money we bring home. And it is not so easy to say we forget about that, or I'm happy now if I helped in kindergarten today, or if I taught a few refugees German, because I only have to work 20 hours a week. I believe that to accomplish that, we need a small social revolution.
A small revolution that very slowly starts to unfold. But will the money paid to the people be enough to survive? Can we solve all of the employment challenges that the future brings us with universal basic income?
Social inclusion is not only giving someone revenue, and that's fine. It's also how to include a person in the society by giving him or her a place in the companies as a citizen. It's a bit more active than only an income.
There are some other priorities that we should first look at them in order to be able to establish a future in which the efficiency gains of these technologies will be shared in a fair way among all the participants of the society.
Artificial intelligence style automation relies very heavily on data. So if we could just be honest that data comes from people, pay the people for their data in some kind of a market system, we could actually create new forms of employment, new forms of dignity. Instead of telling people, oh, now you're useless, now you'll have to live on some sort of basic income model. Instead of saying that, we could say, hey, we recognize you're valuable in new ways.
It seems universal basic income is not the final solution to the problem of mass technological unemployment. A question then arises, how can we start a revolution of the labor market? A rethink that we so desperately need for our future.
We should think about how people could work all, possibly less, because of productivity gains, but on tasks where human has an added value.
We should start talking about the quality of the work, rather than just asking how many people are employed.
First, we need to stop having the goal that everyone needs to work. We need something we like to do. We need activity. We need something which is fulfilling ourselves. We want to get up in the morning and need to reason why we get out.
Each individual working on something meaningful that excites them. That is the vision of work that every society should aspire to. Our work system is still based on outdated concepts that are difficult to leave behind.
We are too much taught in the industrial society to fit into a job which we're supposed to do for 40 years.
As a society, we should reconsider whether we actually hold on to this image of the 40-hour week and what we had since, after the war. Dad leaves the house on Monday morning and returns on Friday evening with the money. That's a system that no longer works.
You could distribute the work. You could reduce the work week from 5 to 4 days. And there are even people who propose to go down to the 3-day work week.
Today, people have different demands on work-life balance. Actually, we have been in a process of social change for a long time, and that's where technology may help us.
We move to more flexible forms of employment in which individuals have opportunities to provide services to perform some particular tasks outside their main occupation.
So how can we calculate the productivity of every citizen in this new social order in the future?
The mother who's staying at home is taking care of her children. She's productive for society. If you take care of your parents, you're productive. If you're teaching kids at school, if you're teaching soccer, if you're cleaning the streets, if you're politically engaged, working for an NGO, there's so many activities in society which are not paid, but contribute to society.
An economic system in which the contribution of each citizen is valued and rewarded is a beautiful, desirable goal. A new social order in which work is not an obligation, but a choice. A society in which freedom and personal development are the main objectives of a human being. But is this possible? Are we ready to put our old values behind us and accept this new utopia?
It's not like the world will change overnight. There are many classical and old-fashioned economic and social conditions that must be questioned in the way we want or not this technological change benefit to the people.
At the same time, the underlying problem is a social system that is one-sidedly trimmed to growth, which is not primarily about social needs, but about profit. And to that extent, such changes are then difficult to implement.
The job market and our society need to adapt, especially concerning the disruption and developments by artificial intelligence, as these are inevitable. Sadly, the prevailing mindset is focused on profit and growth first, which means these adaptations are being forgotten about.
The risk is that we will not educate people in the appropriate way so that to take these opportunities and move forward to them. Because if we sit here, we see automation coming, and we see that how transform labor, transform employment, but not do anything in order to prepare the younger generations and also the people that they are already in the labor market to be there and grasp this new opportunity.
But will it be enough to prevent mass technological unemployment and a darker future?
It's not like there is a future, there is a scenario written somewhere. We don't know. We are writing the scenario.
And the way I think about it is, it's not a competition between machines and humans. Technology is expanding what we are.
There will always be room for human beings for operation of specific tasks, simply because we are different from machines, and machines cannot fully replicate a human being.
It remains to be seen whether machines will one day be able to replicate human beings. What is certain is that the digital future, which once seemed so far away, is now approaching at an unprecedented speed. We must be ready, conscious, and prepared to adapt. And yes, we will need to reinvent ourselves and our future over and over again. But that is what we do, because we are survivors. That is the key difference to machines. This is what makes us humans.